Now I want to pass it over to Andy Reynolds, our Chief Operating Officer and Financial Advocate.
Thanks, John. So for my article, it's going to focus on a certain segment of time, but really it's a process that we try to take clients through no matter where they are in life. And, we believe real, true financial planning lies in helping with these details that really create significant value in people's lives. And so the example I want to share with everybody today is really my favorite thing to have the ability to help people through, because I think it does create significant value. And it really has to do with a retiree who's pre-RMD age or pre-Social Security. So they need income, but they don't have any source of income coming in right now. So we're going to lean on the portfolio. And the same thing can be done when you're saving money and when you have IRA money outside of your 401k and you have other investment money as well. But this article focuses on, you have two buckets of money: IRA money, pre-tax money, and a taxable account. And what we really like to do is in this window of opportunity, have people really think, and we do a lot of the planning, but really think through what bucket of money they're going to take when they start using that money as early income. And a lot of people will just simply have a philosophy of really one side or the other. Take out all your IRA money, take out your pre-tax money, use that money to spend, because that makes your RMDs lower later, and it also makes your qualified pre-tax account become smaller down the road, and it saves that hopefully less highly taxed account. I think that's a good option. The other option is, and some philosophically believe, you spend the taxable account first and you defer the tax as long as possible. So if you think about somebody who retires at 60, you may have the ability to defer any income tax in your IRA for another 12 years. And I think there's good thought processes behind that as well. What we try to do is merge the two and add a little twist to it. So instead of, ultimately we want to get the money out of the IRA in the least taxable environment possible. So instead of just purely drawing from one or the other, what we like to do is draw from the taxable account for income. And in some cases, depending on how much income you need and how much basis is in the account, you may even be able to take that money out completely tax-free. And that just depends on how capital gains taxes work at that point. So we draw down that account, but at the same time, we want to create a taxable event so that we fill in the low tax brackets. So if we think about how taxes work, a lot of people quote their effective tax rate, which is the blend of all the marginal tax buckets. We want to fill in those low marginal tax brackets first. And we don't want to miss that opportunity over those potentially 12 years. So what we'll do is, instead of drawing down the IRA, which is what the people who are in that camp, what they believe in, which we believe in that from a tax standpoint, but instead of just drawing down the IRA, we want to convert the IRA. So we're creating the taxable event. We're filling up the low income tax buckets for an income tax standpoint, but then we're converting it. So at the end of the day, looking forward potentially 12 years, we've taken money out at a low tax bracket. We've reduced our IRA, our pre-tax exposure, but then what we've created is this new bigger bucket of Roth IRA money, which then replaces the pre-tax money. And all future growth on that under current law is completely tax-free. There are some rules. You got to have the account open for 5 years to get that tax-free treatment. But it's really a no-brainer idea to fill up low tax brackets so that when you look over your entire lifetime, you're paying hopefully the least amount of tax possible on your money that you use for income. Same thing can be done earlier on in working years. We really try to do that with people as well when we have the opportunity to.
And you make some great points. We at Ballast have been, longtime proponents of Roth dollars, even prior to the Secure Act and the elimination of the stretch treatment on inherited IRAs. Why do you think we've had some pushback from the professional community on Roth conversions and Roth IRAs in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have some CPAs, I think, and accountants who really are not excited about Roth money. And I think where that stems from is their relationship with how they work with their clients. If you think about when you drop off your taxes to your accountant or your CPA, the best possible outcome results in the highest refund, right? So no one's super excited to give their taxes to their CPA, and the CPA comes back and says, good news, you owe money. Everybody wants a refund. So I think there's this ingrained desire to have a result of the lowest taxes paid in a given calendar year. And rightfully so. That's what people are looking for. I don't know anybody who will ever come into us or a CPA and say, hey, this year I want to pay more taxes. I'm excited for that. So I think just naturally there's the desire to have a lower tax bill. I think also when you think about tax deferral and compounding interest on the tax deferral, there's a natural tendency to value that, and we certainly value that. Ultimately, I think it's our goal and our role as a financial advisor, looking not just in a given calendar year, but looking over a lifetime, to consider how we get that tax deferred money out of the tax deferred account. And what we have seen over and over again are these retirees in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and these RMDs become so much bigger. It ultimately results in people being potentially even a higher tax bracket. Not trying to predict what tax rates will look like, but if we can methodically accept that we're going to prepay some taxes and we're going to do that over a stretched period of time, we've really found the math works out in people's interest. But it's not a all or nothing thing. It's got to be, and I think that's also another thing. Some people look at it as either Roth or pre-tax. It's a combination, and it's a lever that you move depending on the situation.
Andy, I love that phrase that you just said, prepaying your taxes. And that's effectively what you're doing with a Roth account. And so we know the benefits then of, prepaying your taxes, and then with the Roth account, you get the future tax-free cash flow. But what are some of the other long-term benefits of Roth money?
Yeah, so as Brian mentioned, we're really big advocates of Roth money, and I think we would all agree that in almost any client situation, they should have some degree of Roth money, and we can find a benefit of some degree of Roth money, and that's whether you're 22 years old or whether you're 92 years old. Generally we find that it will help out a situation. And really where that comes down to is there's some hard math behind it, but also there's some soft science behind it. So what Roth money affords you the ability to do is one, hedge future tax rates. We are in a low tax environment. We don't want to predict that taxes are going to go up, but a lot of people think they will. So if they do, we have prepaid some of those taxes and we're hedging against future tax rates, which also reduces variables in retirement. So when we think about retirement income planning, if all of a sudden tax rates go up by 5%, we've effectively just reduced income by 5%, reduced your purchasing power by 5%. And as good as we can be at financial planners and money managers, there's nothing you can do about that. It's a direct impact. So if we have some of that tax already prepaid, it's a variable that we can reduce or eliminate going into retirement. And that's really good. It also allows you to pay tax from your earned income as you're earning it, rather than from your nest egg. So when you go into retirement and you have an account balance, a lot of people feel good. I got this much money, I checked the box, time to retire. Well, yeah, but that much money is not ultimately really how much you have. You can spend a portion of that money. And so with that being said also, it allows you to what we were mentioning before, prepaying your taxes, pay some of your taxes as you go, which hopefully over your lifetime results in a lower lifetime effective tax rate. I think that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve, is a lifetime lower effective tax rate. It also gives you a bucket of money for a large purchase. So we see so many people going into retirement who want to buy a house, or want to gift and help out children, or want to go do this huge family vacation, and they have to take out a large lump sum. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100, maybe it's $500,000. If it's all pre-tax money, that $500,000 now sits on top of your income for that year. I don't think anybody's going to buy the house but then not spend less money over the next couple of years. They're probably going to maintain their living expenses. So it gives you a bucket of money to where you can take out tax-free for any large one-time expenses. There's also a benefit to it, again, from really a financial planning, behavioral finance standpoint, where if you think about an equation of early living versus retirement living, it's really one of the few things that benefits both. It causes you to live on less because you're paying some of your taxes early, which then benefits you later in life in two different ways. One, you've prepaid your taxes. Two, you've taught yourself to live on less, which, again, going back to your budget conversation, Frank, it causes you to more so live within your means. And if anything happens, it's, that money you were saving, that's extra cash flow you could have later in life. So there's a lot of benefits. It's not the simple benefits that, the stereotypical benefits of Roth and what we think is just for young people, it's just for low income people. There's a lot of benefits to Roth. And the one other one I'll leave you with is, from a behavioral finance standpoint, a lot of people will max out whatever that threshold is, and it's an arbitrary number. But, when you're maxing something out, you feel good about yourself. You feel like you're doing what you should be doing. If we max out Roth versus max out pre-tax, ultimately you're resulting in more purchasing power. So if we're working with the type of client who likes maxing things out, it's really an opportunity to facilitate more purchasing power down the road.
I was reading, and we've all seen these articles over the last several years talking about this retirement crisis in the United States, and about how so many retirees are so, grossly underfunded, which I think is generally accurate. But what I've also noticed with young people, and this is probably just inherent in the type of client and prospective client that we're working with, is that they're focusing on saving in their retirement plans, and they're focusing on trying to max out as soon as possible. And we have seen this in some of our clients that are now past RMD age, where these retirement account balances are so significant that their RMD now is exceeding what their income was while they were working. And I think if someone is adequately developing a plan early in their working life, that likelihood is only going to increase. Therefore, the most serious people are going to end up with the largest balances, and therefore potentially the biggest tax issues to come with it. So it's just something that really, to your point, Andy, all good points. I think people need to open up their mind to where Roth is appropriate.
And I think there's definitely a portion of the retirement issue is definitely a huge headwind for our country. But there's also a demographic where they're going to be saving a lot, and then ultimately they're going to inherit a lot too. So now all of a sudden, if you have parents who live longer, and maybe you're in that nearing RMD age, and then you also inherit a big pre-tax retirement account from the generation above you, you may be forced to be drawing on really high income levels. And, good problem to have, but, you can figure better ways to solve that equation if you do the planning ahead of time.
Yeah, you could have people saving 25% on their deferral and then paying 40+% when it comes to distribution time. Not exactly how it was designed to work.
Exactly.